Okay, welcome to another
So kick us off, Marvin.
welcome to another reading of Lord Mayher, and we are on online page 2701 in April of 1949, and we'll begin the reading here. And well, I might as well start the reading today. On the 19th of April, Baba went from Mandla to Katni, where he continued his must work, communing with Mehtab Shah. An unusual tale was told about this must. Several years before, he had died in a village called Panagarh. He came. He had come back to life from the grave 3 months later and had returned to live in a tailor shop. Sarndi Must also lived in the shop of the same tailor, who took care of Mehtab Shah. Samdi's arms and legs were arrayed with numerous rings and bangles of iron and brass. This unusual tailor thus gave refuge to two God-intoxicated souls in his shop. Shoba was an advanced Majub-like must who lived on a rubbish heap a few yards from some stinking public latrines in Kotney. He never left his perch, even to answer the call of nature. So one can imagine how foul and horrid the place was. But when it came to his work, Baba was indifferent to such things. And he was quite happy with the contact, since Shoba was a high must. From Kotney, Baba traveled to Rewa, where he worked with Morganji Ka Hafizji, a well-revered figure of the area who was worshipped by Hindus and Muslims alike and was said to be about 125 years old. Baba continued on to Allahabad, where he contacted two musts on 20 April. Most significant was a man about 60 years old known as Inayat Sai, who referred to himself both as a Sufi and a Hindu. He was also revered by both Muslims and Hindus. Baba wished to contact sadhus at Chitrakat, 110 miles southwest of Allahabad, and they drove there that day. But when they arrived, Baba felt uneasy and stated, "I don't like the atmosphere here." And so they returned to Allahabad without having made a single contact. The road to Chitrakat was horrendous, and what work Baba did by driving 110 miles there and back is unexplainable. The forested area of Chitrakat is associated with the advent of Lord Ram. It is believed that Ram, Lakshman, and Sita spent 11 years in their 14-year exile in Chitrakat. The once thick forest or jungle area is famous for being a hidden abode of saints, as described by the poet Tulsidas. And we have a footnote. Tulsidas lived in 1532 to 1623, was a divinely inspired writer, and is considered the greatest poet of his time. He wrote the life of Lord Ram, Valmiki's Ramayana, in Hindi. Meanwhile, Jal Karawala's driver had taken a train to Allahabad, and when the group returned, they gave the car back to him and boarded a train for Faizabad on Thursday, 21 April 1949. In Faizabad, Baba contacted the much revered Haji Abdul Rahim Shah, who was 90 years old. Baba also contacted Saheb Ali Shah in Faizabad and then continued on to Ayodhya. Ayodhya is the birthplace of Lord Ram. In Ayodhya, Baba contacted a yogi known as Asrudin, who was much revered. Footnote. Asruddin was also called Bengali Baba. Afterwards, Baba indicated that he wished to contact sadhus. The Mandali gathered 104 sadhus in one place. Baba did his work of bowing down to them and giving the sadhus a few rupees each before leaving by train for Ganda. In Ganda, on the 22nd, Baba worked with Bhartari Mastan, who wandered about the town in a dazed state. Baba then communed with a Mastani named Nujahan, whom he had first contacted in 1942. This time, she had changed her place of residence and was found at a crossroads, sitting on a heap of rubbish. Baidul coaxed her to sit with Baba in their cycle rickshaw, and after some persuasion, she got in, but insisted upon taking with her the pile of junk. Baba, Baba took her to her former room, where he sat alone with her. Afterwards, he indicated his contact with Nur Jahan was good. From Ganda, Baba proceeded to the town of Bahraich, where he contacted Sheikh Ahmed Lohi. The must was covered with an array of iron pieces all over his body. Lohi had his abode at the railway station, where he kept a register in which he would note down the arrival and departure times of trains. Baba went to the waiting room to contact him, and the Mandali went to bring him. But at that time, a train had arrived, and its engine had been detached to be filled with water. Ill-tempered, the must was not to be hurried, despite the fact that Baba was waiting for him, and always liked to finish his work as soon as possible. The must protested, claiming that he was busy. Finally, after the engine was reattached to the carriages, and Lohi had examined it and jotted down something in his register, he went along for the contact. Baba sat with him in the waiting room alone and then departed. Later that same day, Baba communed with Bhagwan Din Mastan, a high must with whom he had worked before in 1942. He was also known as Kachiriwala Baba, because the must would sit in a magistrate's compound and at times enter the courtroom, Kachiri, and begin cursing those inside, and even the judge himself. Baba spotted him walking out of the courtroom and took him aside. This time, the must asked for a dhoti, which Baba gave him along with some sweets. Also in the precincts of the court was a Mastani known as Lohiwala. The courtroom was unique since it had two God-intoxicated souls who would frequently attend its proceedings. Baba also worked with Gumani Baba, a good Majub-like must of Bahraich. But at the time of contact, when Baba put a plate of food in front of the must, Gumani refused to eat. This put Baba in an ill mood, and he remarked, "The must's uncooperative attitude has put an additional burden upon me." They left, and after about an hour, Baba sent Shagan and Vishnu back to see if the must had eaten the food. He had, and when this was reported to Baba, he became happy and was then pleased with the contact. Baba returned to Ayodhya from Bahraich on 23 April, where he contacted Ghaffur Patan, who lived in a room attached to a mosque. He was 60 years old then, but as a young man, Ghaffur had wandered naked in the jungle for some 25 years before settling in the mosque. Baba contacted two other advanced souls in Ayodhya, Agor Sadhu and Shankarji Sadhu, and then left by train for Benares. In Benares, the next day, Sunday, 24 April 1949, Baba worked with a stout must named Lakaria Baba, who for a must was unusually dressed because he was in clean clothes. Lakaria would give people pieces of wood and string as good luck charms. Baba asked Erich to write the must's name and address on a piece of paper and remind him about this when they returned to Mount Abu. When they returned 4 days later, Erich reminded Baba, who told him again, note down the must's name and where they found him on a clean piece of paper. After doing this, Erich gave the paper to Baba, who put it on the table beside his bed. 6 days later, on 4 May, Baba picked up the paper, wadded it into a ball, and directed Erich to throw it into a well. Erich threw it in the well, situated on the same lane as the men's house, which the Mandali had renamed from Bisti Nala to Beastly Nala because of the wretchedness of the neighborhood. Age had no idea of what work Baba was doing with the must. By having his name written down and then discarded, unraveling Baba's mysterious actions is but conjecture, Age explains, and is left to the reader's imagination. Baba also contacted a subtle conscious woman known as Ruki Mastani. She was found near the Benares train station, naked except for a thick accumulation of rags that she had wrapped around her stomach. Alongside a road in Benares, under a tree, was Vishwanati Natiji Mastan, who repeated over and over, I am God, I am God. Later, Baba worked with 2 musts and also contacted 4 seekers. The most exceptional contact and the last must contact Baba made in Benares occurred on 25 April. It was with the very high must known as Batwa Shah. That very morning, Baba had remarked to the Mandali, if I can contact at least one very good must today, my trip will be a success. The Mandali diligently set about the task, and the famous figure in Benares, known as Batwa Shah, was found. He was a great must who had been born of a wealthy family in Gazipur. However, this former nobleman now was covered with lice and thus known as Juwa Shah, meaning lice king. At times he acted like a salik, at times like a majzub. He carried sheets of paper with him which he would fill with writing using a long pencil. For the most part, his writing was indecipherable. Fond of children, Batwa Shah was always surrounded by them and would feed them. Baidul went to him early in the morning. There was a mosque nearby, and Baidul suggested that the must accompany him there. But Batwa Shah resisted, uttering with deep feeling, I have forgiven the mosque. I stopped going to it, so how can I enter it? I won't. Then Shagan, Erich, and Vishnu tried to coax him to another site where Baba could contact him privately. The must would not budge. In the evening, Erich was sent back to Batwa Shah to plead with him to allow contact, and the must replied that he would see Baba at 9 that night. Baba had also gone near him 3 times during the day. When Baba arrived, the must was sitting on the edge of a cot on the road. Baba sat next to him, and the contact with him began. All right. Someone else want to pick up the reading here? Maybe Jean or Eva?
Oh, or MEHER, Kiran.
I can do it. Is it from the start that there was a plate?
Yep, that's what
There was a plate of food before him, excuse me, which he began eating in Baba's presence. He finished half and offered the rest to Baba, who ate it. A woman devotee then came, bringing more food. Batwa Shah again ate half and handed the rest to Baba. Baba started eating with joy, and when only a few mouthfuls were left, Batwa Shah took the plate away, handed it back to the woman, and told her, "Distribute this among your family." He then asked Baba to scratch his back, which Baba did with utmost care. After about an hour of this, Batwa Shah spoke in solemn English, permitted and allowed. These enigmatic words brought an end to the contact. Feeling very happy, Baba stood up. His joy was discernible by the gleam in his eyes, and it seemed that the contact was completely successful. Baba later related to Don, "When I sat near Batwa Shah, I felt as if I were sitting near Chacha." Some idea of the must's greatness can be gleaned from this remark, as Chacha was God realized, a seventh plane Majzu. From Benares, Baba left for Gaya, where on 26 April 1949, he worked with more advanced souls. Most noteworthy was Shah Rahmatullah Pir, an elderly man of 70 who had a large group of disciples. After this work, Baba returned to Mount Abu on the evening of the 28th. The women Mandali had stayed in Mount Abu all this while, as well as Don and Gustaji. Walu had been sent for, and she too was staying with the women. After resting for a few days, Baba walked to Wara on Monday, 2 May, where he again sat with Bengali Baba. On the 6th, he was driven to Oriya and again worked with the great yogi, Matragiri. The next day, Baba visited the caves surrounding Naki Lake below the town of Abu. Among those caves, he contacted 6 sadhus, the one known as Mauni Baba being the best. Later that same day, again near the lake, Baba worked with Haridas Baba Nirvan, the advanced must who used to refer to himself as Ishwar's dog, which he had declared in Ishwar's very presence. On Thursday, 12 May 1949, Baba set out on another must tour, accompanied by Erich Baidu, Vishnu, and Gustaji. He first visited Abu Road at the base of Mount Abu, where he recontacted musts Ganpat and Kuda Baksh. And next page. Afterwards, Baba traveled to Palampur, where he worked with Amir Shah Mastan. This must was so highly respected that the uncle of the Nawab, Muslim prince of Palampur, had provided a fine room for him to live in, but the must was unconscious of his physical surroundings, and consequently, whatever food was placed there for him ended up being consumed by the stray cows, goats, and dogs that wandered in and out of his room. From Palampur, Baba journeyed to Gulbarga via Bombay with Erich and Gustaji. Baidu traveled separately. Adi Sr., along with Nariman and Elizabeth, met them at Dadar train station in Bombay and took Baba to Meherji's Kaka. Kaka had an interview with Baba there. Sarosh and Ramju arrived at 5 p.m. and spoke with Baba. All dined at Nariman's before Baba returned to the station. Baba continued on his journey with Erich, Gustaji, and Deshmukh via the Madras mail. Baba had a cold, Adi noted. At the village of Kandal on 14 May, Baba recontacted the great must, Guru Appa Swami. Baba had worked with him 4 years before in 1945, and this time Baba gave him sweets. The must asked for tea, which was also given. After sipping a little, he gave the rest to Baba, which Baba drank. The must was ecstatic at the meeting and embraced Baba with great fervor. Baba gave him a white sheet and a carpet and then returned to Gulbarga. Baba recontacted the must, Lal Muhammad, in Gulbarga. He gave a cigarette to Baba as a token of remembrance. And footnote. Baba had worked with Lal Muhammad in 1945. After this contact, Baba proceeded to Yadgiri on Sunday, 15 May 1949, and worked with the very great Tilgor Swami of Tumkur. He was one of the rare Jivan Muktas on earth, a perfect being without duty. This was Baba's second contact with him, and at the meeting, the Jivan Mukta embraced Baba with ardor. The Mandali remembered that when they had seen Tilgor Swami before in 1945, he had been fully clothed. Now he was utterly naked. On the way back to Yadgiri, they asked Baba about this, and he stated, although a Jivan Mukta does not himself change his habits nevertheless change of their own accord. From Yadgiri, Baba traveled to Hyderabad, where he worked with 8 musts from 16 to 18 May. Most noteworthy of these was Rajia Mastan, who tried to run away, but was intercepted by Baidul, who brought him in a rickshaw to Baba. Baba contacted him in a small room, his hideaway in a graveyard, where they sat alone. Raja gave Baba some pieces of broken china and was taken back to his seat. Baba asked Erich to count the pieces, which totaled 70. Wrapping them carefully in a large handkerchief, Baba gave the bundle to Vishnu, and upon their return to Mount Abu, put them in his precious chest of the must's gifts. In Hyderabad, Baba and the Mandali intended to travel to a certain locality of the city by bus. So Baba sent Baidul to ask a moderately well-dressed man which bus to take. Baidul asked, repeating the question 3 or 4 times, but the man did not reply and simply turned away. A stranger standing nearby revealed to Baidul that this was the saint Kala Khan Majzub. Baidul quickly went after him down the street, and he was taken to a hotel where Baba gave him food. Explaining about the condition of the saintly must, Baba remarked, Kala Khan is so completely Majzub-like. He has no bodily consciousness whatsoever. Great care must be taken when feeding him, otherwise he will choke to death. On the 18th, Baba tried his utmost to recontact Saeed Muin Uddin, the 6th plane Saint Must, and current spiritual chargeman of Hyderabad. He had previously been contacted in 1945. but this time refused to see Baba. In response, Baba complained, "My spiritual load is great, and it won't be reduced unless and until I contact a good must. That is why I wanted to work with Said Moinuddin, but since he has refused, another must be found." Therefore, the Mandali searched throughout the city, and after a while found a must called Wali Saheb. Baba, however, stated that the must was not a wali, but an ordinary type, and so the must was not able to help much in lessening Baba's burden. Baba and the Mandali were informed about a great soul known as Anand Swami in the Kachigoda locality of Hyderabad, and they set off in that direction to find him. On the way, however, Baba's gaze fell on Shastri Bau. He was a six-plane must whom Baba had contacted several times 4 years earlier. Baba communed with him again in a sarai, an inn for travelers. Afterwards, Baba went to meet Anand Swami, who was, as usual, playing with the public water tap along the road, filling his pot, washing his face, and splashing water everywhere. After the successful contacts with these two great saintly musts, Baba expressed his relief, indicating, "The burden has been lifted and my work is now completed." Baba returned to Mount Abu on the evening of Friday, 20 May 1949, where he met the women, Mehera, Mani, Meru, Walu, and Goher, and the other men Mandali, Don, Ghani, and Anna 104. Thus, after 2.5 months of almost nonstop traveling, Baba's intensive must work came to a temporary halt. The Mandali were utterly exhausted, and indeed, Baba's health too had suffered noticeably. Most of their traveling had been done in crowded buses and third-class trains, and all of these weeks of travel had taken place at the height of the hot summer season in India. One can scarcely imagine the discomforts involved in traveling to remote places on meager or non-existent rations, hardly any sleep, and in the scorching heat. On 25 May 1949, Baba dictated this telegram, which he directed Don to send to the Mandali at Meherabad and Ahmednagar. The last two strenuous midsummer must trips done during my illness have severely told upon my health. But this is not even the shadow of the 1949 personal disaster to come. None of the Mandali had any idea to what Baba was referring or had any hint of what was to come. Baba left Mount Abu for Meherazad on Friday, 27 May 1949, with the men and women Mandali, reaching Bombay the next day at 9:20 a.m. Adi Sr. and Nariman met them at the train station in Nariman's car, and Sarosha's sister Homai brought her car. The women stayed at Nariman and Arnavaz's apartment, Ashiana, and Baba Baidul, Anna 104, Erich and Gustaji stayed at Meherji's home. Don, Shagan, Ghani, and Vishnu departed for Meherabad the same day. As soon as Baba set foot in Bombay, he went in search of musts to contact, accompanied by Adi Sr., Meherji, Nariman, and Don. One must, named Bora, was found living on Mangalore Street under an awning made of scrapped cardboard boxes and old sacks. Baba found another must outside the Koja Cemetery on Sandhurst Road. No one knew this must's name because he was never known to speak to anyone. Although he was clothed in torn and filthy garments, he had a noble face and luminous eyes. Baba indicated he was a good must. Later that day, Baba communed with the fifth plain must, Mung Saji Maharaj, whom he had previously contacted at Dham on Gaon in 1944. Baba worked with him in his room in Nagin Mahal at Churchgate, a bustling section of Bombay.
Okay, you want to pass the reading on, Eva?
Sure.
Gene, I guess it's up to you here.
Rhoda Mistry had given birth to a son on 16 May, and against the doctor's orders not to leave the hospital, she came to Ashiana for the master's darshan. The child was barely 2 weeks old, but Rhoda was determined to show him to Baba. Baba took the baby boy on his lap and named him MEHER, remarking, Tehemten has returned. Tehemten was Rhoda's brother who had died at a young age in 1943. Rao Saheb, Ali Akbar, that's Aloba, and Meher Bey Merchant were also granted interviews while Baba was in Bombay. In the afternoon, Baba went to the Empire Theater to see an Eddie Cantor movie, comedy, named If You Knew Susie. With him were Adi Sr., Meherji, and Nariman. Later, they also watched part of a cricket match. Baba reported that he had no sleep in the train on the way from Mount Abu, and he had trouble sleeping in Bombay as well, waking the Mandali at 3:45 a.m. On the morning of 30 May 1949, Baba left Bombay in Adi Sr.'s car, along with Mera, Mani, and Goher. Before leaving, he stopped at Dina Talati's house at Matrunga to see her and her children. Dina had been in Baba's contact since the days of Manzil Amim, where she and her husband Naval had been frequent visitors. After Naval's demise, Dina resided in Bombay according to Baba's instructions and passed her life in his remembrance. Baba and the women stopped for lunch at Bindra House in Pune with the Jesawala family. Jal Karawala was there also. He returned to Meherzad the same day, where Baba called Sarosh, Savak Damiana, Savak Kotwal, and Frenchie. Anna 104, Baidul, Erich, and Gustaji arrived in Ahmednagar from Bombay by train. Erich left Meherzad on the 31st to stay at Bindra House, and Gustaji returned to Mehrabad. At Meherzad, Baba became very annoyed when he learned that Gulmai had gone to stay in Sakori. Baba ordered Adi Sr. to move to Meherzad, or Meherabad if Gulmai decided to remain at Sakori. Baba eventually forgave Gulmai on condition that she not visit Sakori or have any connection with the ashram until the end of 1949. Upasani was long dead, right, by 1949? During this period, Baba had sent Dadi Karawala and Sorabi Vakil of Surat to Mandla in central India to farm the land of Baba's center there. They were on their way on 12 May when Sorabji suddenly had a heart attack and died while the train halted at Gadarwara. Dadi was in a state of shock as he sent telegrams to Baba and others, and he contacted the proper authorities. When at last he came to see Baba on 2 June 1949, Dadi thought Baba would be interested to hear the particulars of what had happened. But as soon as Baba saw Dadi, his only comment was, "Sarabji is freed." He did not say or ask anything further, and his equanimity under the circumstances Dadi off. Baba commented to him, "You did well in Mandla. I'm happy with you and the work you've done for me." Dadi listened silently and then left, though his mind was disturbed. He thought, dear Sorabji died, and Baba expressed neither sorrow, sympathy, nor interest. Death comes as a shock to most people, makes them weep. But our Baba seems to be cold-hearted. Without consulting Baba, Dadi accepted a job with the agriculture department and continued to feel disturbed by Baba's seemingly merciless attitude. For days, he pondered over Baba's strange behavior. But then he remembered Baba's remark, "Sorabji is freed." Understanding dawned, and Dadi realized that for a person to get mukti, liberation, was no small matter and was only possible by Baba's grace. Sorabji's death had in fact been Baba's mercy, and Dadi felt ashamed for not having realized this before. He began to understand that the rounds of birth and death were merely a part of the illusory phenomena of the world. Baba, in fact, sent Papa Jeswala and Savat Kotwal to Surat to console Sorabji's family, and they were grateful for Baba's personal interest and messages of love. On returning to Mirzad from Mount Abu, Baba had the must's treasures kept in his bedroom upstairs. Soon after returning, Baba sent for Rano, Narina, and Elizabeth from Meherabad, and they began staying with the other women at Meherzad. Deshmukh came at this time and stayed at Meherzad, where he and Narina worked on a second volume of her Fragments from a Spiritual Diary. Dawn moved back to Meherabad on 5 June. Baba himself went to Meherabad a few times to attend to matters there. During one visit, Baba discussed with the Mandali his intention of going into seclusion somewhere. The fort near Satara, known as Ajinkyattara, was mentioned as a possibility. Remarking about it, Baba commented, "The area was Shivaji's playground. His men were so good, so devoted, They were ready to lay down their lives at his feet at his slightest nod. You too should become like that. Padre quipped, "We are not the type. We would have been fit only to rub and tend his horses." "That is not true," Baba replied. "I know what you are. Every one of you would sacrifice your life for me. In this avataric age, I have a mandali unlike any other in any previous advent. You are all so lucky." In Pune during 1921, Baba had disclosed that certain men had fought with him and fought against him during his minor advent as Shivaji, the Maratha king and warrior. There was an addition to the Mandali's ranks in June of 1949. A former student from the MEHER Ashram School in 1927, Ali Akbar, later nicknamed Aloba, from Bombay, came to stay permanently with them. The must, Ali Shah, was brought to Mirzad on 7 June, and Baba worked with him for the next 10 days. He was sent back to Mehrabad on the 17th. Minu Kuras was permitted an interview on the 14th. Sarosh and Ramju also saw Baba that day, and Sarosh described to Baba the recent refugee-related disturbances in Ahmednagar and subsequent curfew imposed. Before going to Mount Abu, Baba had instructed Sarosh to send the body of the blue bus to Mirzad. Baba had traveled the length and breadth of India in this bus in 1939 and 40. During the war years, because of the shortage of gasoline and rationing, the bus had been given to Sarosh, who overhauled it and for a number of years plied it in Ahmednagar as a public bus. The body of the bus was then kept in the yard of the Sarosh Motor Works garage in Ahmednagar, next to Kushru quarters, and was lying unused. Months previously, before leaving for Mount Abu, Baba had suggested going into seclusion for 40 days in this bus, instead of at some remote place, for the sake of his love for his Mandali, who would then be able to be near him during his seclusion. The bus was brought to Mirzad by truck. After the body of the bus was brought, Kaka had it repainted, raised, and embedded in a foundation plinth of bricks and 4 empty oil drums. To protect it from sun and rain, a shed was built overhead, and near its rear door, a small bathroom and commode was kept. On one side was Dawn's small room, where Baba would sometimes sit with Ali Shah, and on the other side, a garage, now Mandali Hall, and in front, a tall bamboo matting fence, which Baba had ordered to be built so that the makeshift cabin was completely secluded. Marvin, do you want to take another turn?
I was wondering if maybe we should, stop here. It is the end of our session, and I can't really stay extra today. So,
Okay. Okay. I'll
I
stop
mean,
the
you know what?
recording.
Let's read one more. Let me read one page and then we'll stop, okay?
Oh, awesome.
Okay. The work was finished by 19 June. A meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, 21 June, 1949, regarding Baba's upcoming seclusion. Jal Karawala and Erich arrived in Meherzad on the 19th at 6:30 p.m., and Meher Ji and Nariman arrived from Bombay the next afternoon. Baba had invited all 28 Mehrabad Mandali to the meeting, as well as other close lovers from Pune, Ahmednagar, and Bombay, and they were to arrive at Meherzad on the 21st at 7 o'clock in the morning. A total of 150 persons gathered that day. Erich and Kaka had decorated the seclusion area with Baba's seven-colored flag, a painted photograph of him, and large golden letters that spelled out Meherazad. Baba began the meeting by stating, I have called you all here to take part in the purification ceremony to cleanse the atmosphere and keep it free from maleficent spirits and evil influences. Baba then called on Kala Mama, Kak Saheb, Don, and Kaikobad to recite particular passages from the Gita, Quran, Bible, and Avesta, respectively. And as they were reading, Baba would intermittently explain the meaning of the selected passages. When Don stood up to read the Sermon on the Mount from the New Testament, King James Bible, Baba said, this is my favorite section in the Bible. And here is a part of it. After seeing the multitudes, Jesus went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, etc. It ends there. The reading ended with the Lord's Prayer, and after the other readings, Baba stated, these are all but different approaches to the same one truth, God, and therefore the real purport of each book is just the same. These approaches can be broadly divided into two kinds, indirect and direct, that is, impersonal and personal. In spite of such distinctions, equally same results can be achieved and have been achieved through either of the ways. Let's see if that goes on. Yeah, let me read a little more. What can be understood in a flash by spiritual experience takes ages to grasp intellectually. As regards my seclusion, I have 100% reasons of my own to retire from tomorrow for 40 days. This should not be looked upon as chila narsi, meaning penance of remaining in a circle, or meditation and so forth. I am free in every way, but I am going to get myself bound voluntarily. I will also intensify my silence and will not let even the least sound escape my lips. Baba then asked Deshmukh to perform kirtan, which he did. Wrapping a turban around his head similar to a kirtankar, a singer, he sang and spoke Baba's praises in verse and prose. Baba distributed prasad, and the Mandali returned to Meherabad at 11 a.m. Erich went back to Pune, Ghani to Lanabla, Meherji and Nariman to Bombay, and Deshmukh to Amroti. Footnote. And Jal stayed in Meherzad. Deshmukh returned on 30 June and stayed at Meherabad for some days, where he continued the writing work Baba had given him. Nice photo of the group. Well, we can see is the back of head, so let's move on.
I think we can see Baba's face in the right corner, bottom corner of that
No,
doorway.
I think if you scroll to the left, Baba's standing up.
No, I think that's a mandali.
Oh, right. That could, yeah, it doesn't look like Baba.
And they're all kind of, do you see what I mean? That
Oh, maybe inside the room there.
inside the room there, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess those are the gold letters of Merazad.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, there he is. Mhm.
So this is just shortly before the God Speaks days, I guess.
Well, it's actually before the new life started too.
Oh, before the new life,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's finish up here. On 22 June, Baba inspected the Blue Bus cabin and gave detailed instructions for each man and woman at Marizat during the period of his seclusion, and to Adi Sr., who came in the afternoon as usual. Adi was to continue to bring the mail every day at 3 p.m., but Baba would not meet him. That day, as Adi Sr. was departing, Baba embraced him. A timetable was prepared according to which Kaka was to bring water, food, and other required items at specified times. Two men were to share the watch during the night. There were two servants from Pimpilgaon village, Eknath and Ganpat Akapa, Akapa, Dali, 28, and one other man during the day. No one was to enter the seclusion compound except Kaka. At 5:30 p.m. on the 22nd, Baba entered the blue bus to begin his 40-day seclusion. As age recorded, the sun, who had been shining brightly in the hearts of his lovers, now hid his face, and what they thought was darkness engulfed them. But this darkness or separation served a useful purpose. The pain of his remembrance kept them awake throughout the night of separation, awaiting dawn's arrival. Baba was also to fast during the seclusion. For the first 8 days, he ate only one meal a day, drinking tea and coffee once. As dictated by Baba, the daily schedule for these days was as follows. Maybe we could end it here and we could pick this up next week at page 2714.
Okay, let me make a note of that.
And let's cancel the recording. Stop the recording.